What was the particular inspiration for the script? It was based on a book, and how did that come about? How did you get connected with the author?
And the author, actually, his name is Jim Shepard. He wrote, the book was published in 2005, and he definitely, some of that was in the aftermath of Columbine, kind of inspired him to write this story, and really with the goal of seeing it through the eyes of a kid who can get to that point. And so the co-writer of the script is a filmmaker I worked with named Brett Haley. His brother is an author as well, and knew Jim through kind of their book circles. And so he found the novel and read it and just fell in love with it, and really in love with that character of Edwin and what he goes through. And so we optioned the book, and then Jim actually co-wrote the script with Brett, more just kind of overseeing drafts and things, not really scripting it per se. But it was a pretty literal adaptation from the book itself, and except for the ending, I think is the biggest. The ending of the book is very like it ends on the floor in the gym, just kind of leaves you there, and it's more violent, I would say, than what we showed here. So, but yeah, so it was. I got the first draft of the script in 2010, so it's been a really long journey with this film for somewhat obvious reasons.
Yeah,
it's a tough one, but.
Well, let me ask you about that. Getting the money together to do an independent production like this on a topic like this couldn't have been easy.
No, it wasn't. And it was interesting, actually, like over the course of trying to get the film together, just seeing how the conversation around these shootings even changed. Because I think initially when we had this story, even to try to engage people in the conversation, or you tell them what it's about and they're just immediately not interested. It was kind of just this thing that no one wanted to even talk about or think about. And sadly, as these incidents started happening more frequently, it finally became something that I think people recognized that we needed to look at critically, and it still wasn't easy to get the funding together, but it definitely changed the conversation.
Questions from the audience? No one.
It's a lot to take in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm curious about the title. Did you consider other titles? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, and we get this question a lot. So it was called Project X for many years, which is the name of the book, and then there's that Todd Phillips fraternity comedy called Project X, which is a big studio film that came out. So when that happened, we had to change the title. And we went through a lot of different names, and even up till like when we were finalizing the film for its premiere this summer, just trying to figure out what was right. And that's actually pulled from the way the character speaks in the book. So it's a lot of it, and then I go, and then he goes, and she goes. And so it was pulled from that, but that's never really referenced in the film, so you don't quite get that connection. But we thought there was kind of a layered meaning to it too.
Yeah.
That was nice, so it just kind of was the one we settled on.
I've got a question for you also about the young man who was the lead actor who played Edwin. Where did you find him? How did you connect with him?
Yeah, he's so talented. Yeah. So we did kind of a nationwide search. We had casting directors who were based in New York, but they did kind of a nationwide search for both the boys. And Sawyer Berkeley, who plays Flay, he's based out of New Jersey, actually. So he had sent in tape, because we were in LA at the time, taped himself. And then Armand Darbo is the kid who plays Edwin, and he was LA based. And had done a couple things previously, but was really new to acting. He's a very artistic kid. Like, he plays in his school's jazz band and goes to like art school in Los Angeles. But just was really raw, and you could tell he wasn't. I think the best kid actors are not actors,
right?
And you feel that with him. Like, he's just being this character, and he's not, trying to put any of it on. So he did. I remember that he taped a few different scenes for us, but one of them was the one where he's crying under the bed toward the end, and his mom comes in, and he just like broke down on camera on this tape. And you're sitting in a blank room doing a reading on tape at that point, and we were just all blown away. And so we pretty much knew right off the bat he was the kid, but it was scary too, because Sawyer was on the East Coast and Armand was on the West Coast, so we cast them both. They had never actually been together, so you don't know too if they're just going to have like an on-screen chemistry or how that will be. And I think they just really both felt the part of who they were.
All right, you're on the festival circuit now, but what ultimately happens in the way of distribution for a film like this? Where does it go into circulation, or how does it get into circulation?
Yeah, we're talking with distributors now. It premiered in June at the LA Film Festival, so they've been watching it over the past few months. And it's challenging, because I think they all have kind of universally loved the film, and critics really responded well to it too, but obviously it's a tough one, and I think the marketing teams particularly, who make a lot of the decisions these days, have been nervous about it and how to position it and really find an audience for it. But also recognizing, I think, it was never meant to be like a message film per se, or an, you know, heavy issue film. Like, it's meant to be a story of this boy, but obviously the school shooting is the backdrop of that. So, so yeah, we're waiting to see. We've talked also with, or we're looking at potentially doing kind of a series of screenings where we host like town hall type discussions, and just because I think hopefully there's a lot to glean from it. Like, I've always loved the story doesn't necessarily point a finger at any one reason that these things are happening, but I think there's a lot that you can kind of draw in terms of bullying or gun control or, you know, parental involvement and educators, and I think there's just a lot of components you can look at.
In the aftermath of Columbine, one police officer who was closely involved with that, we were asking him kind of off the record about, you know, what was the motivation for these kids? And his response, I thought, was kind of telling. He said there were some people who are just no goddamn good. They are predisposed to violence, and when you put two of them together, you've got a deadly combination. One may not do it,
Right.
but two feeding off of each other, the way these kids were, that then becomes a deadly combination.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and I think in this story you can kind of see all along, like, I believe that Edwin never really wants to go through with it, but for him it's just about that friendship and that age where Flake is really his only friend and how important it is to preserve that, so he kind of gets drawn down this path that really is, without Flake, Edwin would never have done this. But
Right.
You're right, you put the two in combination,
And you can see his reluctance
Yeah.
going along with the plan toward the end, and his reticence walking into the gym and not firing a shot.
yeah.
Any
But I
other-
love this story too. I think it tries to kind of break down those stereotypes of who those kids are too. Because I think when these things happen, you see it in the media afterward, and it's like the trench coat kid. You know, there's
Yeah,
certain
right.
portrayals where this looks at kind of could be any kid ultimately.
Had a question here?
Sure, just curious, have audience reactions been what you were expecting? Or
Have audience reactions
been
been
anything surprising?
been what you were expecting?
I mean, yeah, I think it's hard. One guy actually last night was like, I think it was an amazing movie. I wish I had never seen it. And I was like, I get that. So I think, yeah, it's that kind of, it's a really hard movie to watch, which we expect, but it's been really positive, which has been encouraging too, in terms of, I think one thing that was surprising even was that, like younger audiences, which we haven't had a ton of, but in some of the screenings there have been younger audience, and they've really responded well to it, and just how much it kind of, they relate to it, and how it feels like a very honest portrayal of their actual experience. And it surprised me just that have conversations with, I mean, even like 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds who really are mature about, they watch it, and I originally didn't, you know, I'm talking to parents, like, are you sure you know what this is, and are you sure you want your kid to see it? I don't have kids, so I don't know exactly, you know, where is that cutoff, but they really, it's part of their everyday life at this point, like it's on their radar on some level, so.
It was a big scandal in my high school in Chicago more than 50 years ago, a long, long time ago, when two kids were brought into the principal's office and wound up getting expelled from school because they had formed a little Nazi Bund in a high school in the south side of Chicago. And that's the worst that it ever got.
Right.
You know, and now what we thought was scandalous at the time is so mild compared to what's going on in high school, the escalation of the violence.
Yeah. Well, and the idea that this is just an answer in kids' minds these days, and most of the time it's probably just a flippant comment, but, and that's why I love the Herman character too. I think you see, like, even for him, it's like, well, I'll just get a gun. And I don't think he would ever do that.
Right.
But it's just, it's something that kids do say these days or think about, and which is just terrifying and tragic, but it is reality on whatever level.
Anybody else? Any other questions? We're gonna wrap it up and clear the room so that they can get in and clean it up for tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow. Oh, you got one back there?
I have one question. What's the reason why the book was turned into a movie?
Why was the book turned into a movie?
It's weird. It's one of those that just, from the first time I read it and we talked about it, I just could never let it go. Like, it just was one of those things that always, then it was turned into a script, and it was so powerful on the page in that form. And I really think it was that character. There was something about you read it and he just, I don't know, I felt like I knew him and I loved it and you just wanted to like care for him, which sounds a little crazy, but it was because a lot of movies too, you'll work on them for a couple of years and they just don't ever come together and not meant to be and you kind of move on, but it was just that one project that never like left my mental space, and so I just kept pushing with it, and I don't know, I mean, hopefully there's a purpose. I think when we initially wanted to do it too, this wasn't as frequent a, occurrence, but
Right.
hopefully at this point there is a meaningful dialogue that can come out of it.
I don't know about you guys, but there were times during the film when I wanted to yell at the screen, "Don't do it! Don't do it!" My God, it was drawing me in that emotionally. All right, anybody else before we wrap it up? If
I just
you
want to thank you all too for being here. I moved here from Los Angeles last summer, so I'm now a Denver local, and I love it here, and it's particularly special to be part of the festival here, and just appreciate you guys.
Welcome.
Thank you. My husband grew up here, so I feel like I have a little tie, but I love it.
Don't forget to fill out your ballots and hand them to the volunteers on your way out. Thank you for being here again. We've got 2 more days of film festival. Hope to see you again. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.